going to talk about technology today, life in digital. Whether we realize it or not, we are living a digital life. There are so many different things that are having an impact on us that are in digital technologies. And that is not necessarily bad. It is a good thing, but it's something we have to control as we have to control anything in life. You know, many, many moons ago, we came up with this thing called a wheel, and that is technology. So now we have things like the internet and cell phones and satellite TV, and the list goes on. And they're not inherently bad, but we have to learn how they're being used in our life, how people are using them with us, and what we do and do not want to allow them to do. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. This is based on a book by Douglas Rushkoff called Programmed or Be Programmed. Douglas Rushkoff, I would call him really a modern-day philosopher who looks at the digital realm and the social realm and determines how the two of them are working together and what the goods and the ills are that are coming out of those things. So that will be our reference today. I also want to thank Mark Hall, who also helped me with this. He read the book as well and offered a great deal of input, and say thanks to Jan, Larry, and Lee Ray, who helped put all this together as well. So those are the sources and the people to thank for today. So I'm going to take a not-so-scientific quiz with you, and this is rhetorical, so don't feel like you need to blurt out any answers or anything else. But I just want you to think about this. Number one, I want you to think about, do you even know the answer? It's not necessarily a bad thing if you don't, but I want it to help you think about what you do and do not know about the digital realm of what's happening. First off, what language do computers use to talk to each other? Do you have a clue what language that is? It is not English. It is not Spanish. It is not German. Okay. That's good. Excellent. Very good. Wow, this class is going to participate. Fantastic. Good. Who is Mark Zuckerberg?
He's the founder of Facebook.
He is the founder of Facebook. He is the creator of Facebook, or depending on how you want to look at it, the stealer of Facebook. What is HTML?
Hotmail.
It is not Hotmail.
Computer language. No, that's not that.
Yeah, it's a type of code, yeah.
Hypertext.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. Hypertext. How do you get spyware? What is spyware, maybe? What is JavaScript? What letter is this? 01 0000001.
A?
You're guessing. I'm impressed. Very awesome. Okay. And what is LAN? Well, let's look at what these answers are. You've answered a bunch of these correct. Computers are speaking binary code. Mark Zucker is the stealer or creator of Facebook, depending on how you want to interpret it. HTML is hypertext markup language. It is the predominant markup language for web pages. How do you get spyware? Where spyware usually ends up on your computer because of something you do, like clicking on a button or a pop-up window or installing software package or agreeing to add functionality to your web browser. What is JavaScript? I heard somebody answer it's a scripting program language, most commonly used to add interactive features to web pages. You guessed in binary what letter that was. I'm highly impressed at this point. What is LAN? It's a local area network. We have one here within our building. So these are digital terms, and I would say right now you guys are cruising way ahead of the last group. So what is digital? Let me give you the Webster's definition of digital first. Digital describes electronic technology that generates, stores, and processes data in terms of two states, positive and non-positive. Positive is expressed or represented by the number 1, and non-positive is represented by the number 0. Thus, data transmitted or stored with digital technology expressed as a string of zeros and ones. Each of these states, digits, is referred to as a bit, and a string of bits that a computer can address individually is a byte. So that is really at what's the core of it, of the idea of what digital is. And digital is being used in a variety of technologies. It is being used in this phone that I'm holding in my hand right now. It's being used in this camera that is filming me currently. It is being used in the laptop. It is being used up here in the projector. So there's no way that we're escaping the digital realm. Digital is controlling the power plants and everything else. It is interacted into everything we have going on. It is in the software that you're going to go back and sit at your desk and utilize. So we're living in a digital age and a digital life. We've got to figure out what it means to us. At the dawn of time, we learned how to speak to each other. We developed a word. Some man called it a tree, or at the time, whatever he came up with, a gabuba. Okay, so he called the thing that we call a tree now a gabuba, and somebody said, okay, gabuba, when they agreed that this was a gabuba. And they developed a language, and they were able to communicate with each other and share feelings and ideas. This was unique. And as that developed, there became people that were speakers and those that were listeners. People who had deep ideas, wanted to share those ideas, and so they would go and speak in public spaces. And as they would speak, others would listen. They would be the creators or the containers of the content, and the others would simply accept the content. They were the consumers of what they were saying. As time progressed, we found things like hydroglyph.
Are you programming us?
I am trying to program you. Hieroglyphics. And the hieroglyphics were controlled by a certain number of people who could read and write the hieroglyphics. And then they would be called things like scribes or leaders or kings. And they would tell everyone what the hieroglyphs had to say. Over time, we developed better alphabets, text, in order to interpret those things. And so we were able to share ideas on a written page because we could now put our language into text. And then over time, we had people who wrote and people who read. We came up with this thing called the printing press. And with the printing press, it was easy to make a book. But we had few people who were writing books, but we had lots of people who were reading books. We had people who were creating content. They were the creators, and we had the consumers. For language, for text, and now in the digital realm, we have the same. What do we call them in the digital realm? It's not speech and listen, or speak and listen. It's not write and read. It is what?
Input.
It's a good start. It's programmers and users. There are people who are programming and people who are simply using it. In the same way that there was the speaker, the creator of the information, and the listener, who was the consumer of it. In the same way there was the book, with the creator of the information, there was the reader, the consumer. In the digital realm, we have so many different tools. And we have the programmer, and we have the user, which is the creator, and the consumer. That's what's happening today. If we don't control these things in our lives, they can be dangerous to us. In the old days, someone spoke, who was one of the few speakers, and says, if we all want to have a good harvest this year, we must sacrifice your child. You find that to be acceptable content?
Pick the child.
Everyone was a consumer. He was the one who was granted the speech and the ideas and controlled them, so we did what he said. There are books that have been written by many a philosopher. There are many different ideas. If you read the one book, you might be deceived. You might find something completely false. But if you're just a consumer of that and not a writer of things yourself or a considerer of concepts and ideas, you're simply a consumer. You may be misled. And that's happening in the digital realm today with all the different software that we're using and with all the different tools that we utilize. Our lives are being controlled by other people who are creators, and we're simply consumers. We have no idea how these things work, and that's dangerous. We have to understand how these things work, what's behind them, and why they've been introduced to our lives, and what they're trying to do with them, if we're ever going to be controllers of it. Program and use is what we're looking at. The problem with digital media is the problem with the other medias as well. It attacks thinking itself. Us, with our personal thinking, processing. Because we get something, and it's easy for us to do, and we don't have to think it through, we can just accept it. For example, most of us here are dealing in the insurance realm on a daily basis, and some of us with rate. Our agents are out there on the streets, and some of our agents here, where we go and we enter some particular information in a piece of software that says name, address, age, driving record, driver's license number, accidents, tickets, zip code, and we hit a button and it delivers a rate. But do we have any idea where the rate came from or how we get the rate?